year's 1989. Disney just opened their third theme park, Disney's MGM Studios. The park was great, but it was missing something. Eventually, in the early to mid 1990s, a ride taking you into fears of sight imagination and would open the doors of an elevator, once again taking you into
the Twilight Zone. You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Disney's park, Disney MGM Studios, opened, but it was very small and it was missing something. There were many plans for a new expansion to the park, featuring a lot of new attractions that would bring the whole park just a little bit bigger. However, this was at a time in the company's age where they're running against a huge competitor, Universal. So they went with a recreation of Sunset Boulevard. But the Imagineers were left with one remaining problem. What about the ride? Disney had been wanting to build a drop tower for a while. They've had great ideas, but they just never came to fruition. Just a few years ago, Michael Eisner became CEO of the Walt Disney Company. His son, when touring Disney, said Disney wasn't cool or hip, and he wanted to change that. He urged the Imagineers to make some horror ride, and they did. And they did a few. Eventually, those two ideas came on the horizon and made
the Twilight Zone.
The attraction opened in 1994. The experience started when the guests entered Sunset Boulevard. The end of the road was a huge abandoned hotel. It was obvious it had seen better days. The guests would walk through an abandoned garden. It almost seemed as they're entering another dimension. The shape was windy and made many turns, which made it feel off. The guests would then enter the hotel lobby, filled with cobwebs, abandoned luggage, and games that had been left there for years. Something happened. Something very, very bad happened. Guests would then walk into the pre-show room, kind of like a library, and the pre-show would start.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hollywood, 1939. Amid the glitz and the glitter of a bustling young movie town at the height of its golden age, the Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right, a beacon for the show business elite. Now, something is about to happen that will change all that. The time is now, on an evening very much like the one we have just witnessed. Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard, because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone.
Guests would then exit the library. They would then end up in the boiler room, where they were then rushed into the only working elevator. They would see the ghosts of the people they saw in the pre-show, and then they would continue going up until they entered the fifth dimension. They would go through the scene and enter a drop tower. They would go up and drop. This would happen many times. Fun fact, you're not actually being dropped, you're being pulled down. Eventually the tower would end and the guests would have survived. The ride has remained the same and has been open in many parks. Some have completely different stories, some are complete copies.
The Twilight Zone.
Eventually in 2017, the Disneyland version closed for a refurb, where it would then turn into Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. From experience, I prefer this ride way over the Tower of Terror in DCA. It's a huge improvement.